this is Zeela. I am here today with Zeela, also known as Aphazel from the band Ancient. I am doing the interview on behalf of Uditha Eranga of Metal Freak Channel from Sri Lanka. How are you doing today, Zeela?
I'm okay. We're here in Bergen, Norway, and we're enjoying the Norwegian summer, which means usually no sun, some rain, and the rain stopped for a little bit, so we thought we can do the interview here in the garden. So hopefully things will be okay.
Ancient is among the most pioneer and prominent 90s black metal bands, so I would like to know how it all began. Could you please tell me how you started your musical journey as a solo project and about the formation of the full lineup of Ancient?
Basically, before Ancient, I was in a death metal band called Putrefaction. We were 4 members, and they were close friends of mine, people who live in the neighborhood, and people we just met in the metal scene in Bergen. And it was a death metal band that was playing in a style of, say, Morbid Angel, Carcass, and we were influenced by a lot of the British death metal bands at the time. And the drummer of Putrefaction was Grim, who later on became the drummer of Ancient. And the band Putrefaction, it broke up around early '92. Some of us had to go to the army and navy, and the band just stopped. And I guess it wasn't a really serious band. I mean, we recorded some demo tapes, but we hadn't released any albums and so on. I also actually went to the army or navy in '92, and towards the end of that period, let's say late '92, I was inspired to start up my own band, and I was looking for a bit different style than one we had with Putrefaction, and like I will say later on, I was inspired by many of the black metal bands at the time, especially Dark Throne, Immortal, and Burzum. Actually, mentioning Burzum, in '91, I remember I met Varg in the local rock bar in Bergen, and he told me that he quit the band of Funeral, and he started his own solo project called Burzum, his own band. And somehow I guess I was a bit inspired by this idea to just start up your own band, you know, have all your own music, playing all the instruments. Pretty much how Bathory did it in the early '80s, and following this idea. So I developed my own music starting in, say, mid '92, and was working on some demo tapes, just the drum machine, and I was playing guitar and bass. And that was basically the beginning of Ancient. And shortly after, I decided, you know, I wanted to have a real drummer, and the natural choice was Grim, which I known for many years. He was playing with me in Putrefaction, and together we started to make the first demo tapes of Ancient. And that's basically the beginning of the band. Grim was playing drums, and he was doing vocals too, and I did all the other instruments. So it wasn't exactly a full lineup, but the two of us, we recorded a demo tape together, Early on the Winds, that was printed in about 1,000 copies. Then we did a 7-inch, The Glemterike, and first album Svartefheim and Trolltar later on. All those were just made by the two of us. So it was not really a full lineup, but that was the band at the time, and we had a few concerts with a session bass player, and that was basically as close as we came to what you can call a full band lineup, and that was the beginning of the band.
What was the appeal of black metal and extreme metal music in general for you?
Well, when I was like 9-10 years old, I was listening much to bands like Kiss, Motorhead, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, and I suppose around, let's say 82, 83, I was more getting into more different kinds of metal. I was discovering bands, especially like Venom, really Slayer, and all the thrash metal bands, Creator especially, and these bands, you know, they had something different. They were really quite different than bands like Iron Maiden, where the vocal style was different. It was a lot more aggressive style, and it really had something that captured my attention, and I felt it very inspiring to listen to these bands. And eventually I started to pick up the guitar and to learn playing, and eventually I would develop my own songs, my own style. I guess I started playing guitar around 85, 86 basically, and had some local bands with friends, and we just played cover songs of Venom, Metallica, Slayer, all these bands. And slowly I was getting better in playing guitar, and eventually probably around 80, let's say 88, 89, I was started to work on my own music, and I was developing my own style that later on, many years later, became Ancient actually. And what really was the appeal of the black metal, it was everything. It was, let's say, Venom was the first band that really captured my attention, with a Welcome to Hell album and black metal album, and the imagery, and even the, you know, the photos of the band and the live shows, and especially the atmosphere of the music. It was something very different than, let's say, the 70s hard rock bands. It was something quite extreme and something different. It was just something I found very exciting and inspiring, and it helped me to get more creative by developing my own style later on.
Wake up, live your life, do not waste it in my name.
People have various opinions regarding the sound of Ancient. Some say it has more classic Norwegian raw black metal elements. Others say it's atmospheric black metal. Some people even say you're more influenced by gothic, melodic black metal. How would you like to describe the sound of your band as the frontman vocalist of the band?
Okay, well, through all the years since '92, we have gone through changes in style. You know, the early albums had a more raw black metal style, you can say, and later on we had different influences, different lineups. Honestly, I don't really care about labeling the band in a certain way, because I feel that we have our own sound, our own style in a way. Some people would say we're definitely a black metal band, and some people would just say it's a kind of atmospheric extreme metal band. I would more go with we're just an extreme metal band, atmospheric extreme metal, I would say, but I don't really care much about these terms. You know, people can call it what they want, and we just do our music, and we don't really care about labels. I guess it's a kind of black metal, extreme metal, but you know, each person can just have their own opinion how to label us.
All right. Ancient released the 7th full-length studio album named Back to the Land of the Dead back in 2016. Are you planning to release a new full-length album anytime soon? If so, could you please tell me a bit about it?
Yes, we have been planning it for many years actually. The main issue lately has been that we've been having very little time. Both me and the other main member, D-Lars, are very busy with working. I am here in Norway, he's now in Slovenia. But we are having plans to do a new album. Hopefully in the end of 2026 we could have a new album released if everything goes as planned. Just making plans and making things happen in reality is two different things. So hopefully we can get to it soon. And what can I tell you? Like, I think for the next album we'll probably be developing an album that is a bit more in the old style of the first 2-3 albums, but still, you know, not trying to repeat ourselves, just to develop that certain sound that Ancient had back in 92, 93, 94, that a lot of people seems to, you know, identify like Ancient, that's our sound, and we had a particular sound back then that was a bit different than the other bands, and I think it's important to keep that and just to build a continuation from that old vibe that we had back in the mid-90s. Though we have to see what many times you say that, okay, this is our idea, this is our plan, and when you actually go in the studio and you start making demos, things tend to change a little bit, so we can't really say so much at this point. I mean, we have some musical ideas and we have some demos made, but it's still a bit early to reveal any actual ideas, but I can say it will be more in the old style, and as time goes we'll keep posting news on social media and see how it's going with the demos and so on. But yeah, it should be more like back to the roots, you can say.
Great. What are the future plans of you as a musician and also Ancient as a band?
Well, for Ancient as a band, we have some festivals coming up later this year. It's possible we'll do a European tour in the end of the year, and in many shows we'll do the anniversary of Svartafem and Trolltar. They've been around for 30 years, and next year too we'll be continuing the Kenyan Chronicle anniversary tour, which we have been doing lately as well, and hopefully next year sometime we can go in the studio and finally record a new album. And for me as a musician, that's basically the same, you know, whatever's going on with Ancient, and as I will come back to later, I also have a side project I will be working on whenever time allows.
Okay. So, what do you think takes the most amount of time to compose?
The most amount of time is usually the guitar riffs, because the way that I make the songs, it's based on the guitar riffs. Usually the beginning of the song, it opens with a certain riff and then comes the second or third riff. It varies always a little bit with each song, but definitely the guitar riffs is the one that takes most time, because once the guitar has been done, then, you know, the bass lines follow the guitar and drum lines follow afterwards, so that's the typical way. Sometimes you can even have lyrics made first and then you make the music to fit lyrics, but that's more of an exception. So the guitars are usually what takes more time.
Taking shelter from the sun, endless.
What do you think is the greatest achievement of you as an extreme metal vocalist musician?
I think I would just say that the fact that we kept the band alive for so many years, it's 33 years now since the beginning of the band, and we have built up a quite strong underground following around the world, which has been allowing us to tour in places that we could not imagine back in '92. I mean, recently we toured South America and we played places like Mideast, Israel, and everywhere around Europe. And we really didn't imagine this back in '92 when the band started. I mean, we just started a band and made an album and another album, and yeah, just 33 years later that the band is still going, that's really, that I would say it's my greatest accomplishment. And we've had some big things here and there. We have played some big festivals and so on, but just that the band is still active, I think that I would say is the greatest achievement.
And on that note, what are your thoughts regarding the Norwegian black metal scene nowadays?
Actually, I don't follow the scene very closely because I don't get to check out all the new bands, but there are really surprisingly a big amount of new bands coming all the time. There's so many bands around there, and there's a great amount of creativity, and the quality of the bands is really good. I mean, there's a venue now in town that has extreme metal shows at least twice a month, and there's always new bands, and many of them I never heard about, and a lot of them are really good. And I would think like 10, 15 years ago, I was kind of had a feeling that the black metal scene was dying, but the last few years, the feeling has been really changed, and there's so much new bands, and the quality is really good still. It's such a great variety of bands now, and it's kind of hard to say which goes under the label black metal, because there's so many kinds of black metal. There's the one most that's playing, say, a style of Dark Throne and Marduk, and there's bands who have lots of keyboards and atmospheric elements. So there's so much now that goes under the black metal label. But I think the scene in Norway has remained very strong after all these years.
Right. Who would you say are your biggest musical influences as a vocalist musician?
Well, especially the old bands like Bathory, Venom, Merciful Fate, from the 90s, especially Dark Throne, Immortal, and several other more unknown bands like Tartaros from Norway. Yeah, mostly the old bands that I grew up with.
What are your top favorite albums released by other musicians or bands?
Well, there's so many, but I would especially mention first, say, Bathory, it's Under the Sign of the Black Mark, Merciful Fate, Don't Break the Oath, Venom, Welcome to Hell, and then amongst other bands I would say even bands like Dead Can Dance, maybe Into the Labyrinth, even Iron Maiden, Power Slave. And I listen to a lot of kind of music, not just extreme metal, even all kind of 70s hard rock and big variety of things.
Are you currently involved in any other side projects apart from Ancient? If so, what are they?
I do have one band that I actually created in 2016 in Greece. It's a band called Melina Mortis. We haven't really had time to work on it lately because I moved to Norway in 2018, and the lineup is basically just me and the female singer, and we haven't had a steady drummer lately. But it's a band that you could say it's like a mix of this, let's say, Ancient meets Black Sabbath meets Typo Negative, and it's a mix of style. It's a band that has a dark atmosphere and many melancholic atmospheric parts. So it's like elements of black metal mixed with even gothic metal, and the vocals will be partly female vocals and partly black metal style vocals. And if everything goes as planned, we should have an album out next year. But this is a band that always has to, it depends if we have time. Ancient is always my first priority, so it hasn't been a lot of time I have to spend with this band lately, but hopefully next year we can release an album. We basically have the whole album written. We have 7 songs. And it's just a matter of getting the lineup together, getting the right drummer, and going to the studio and just record it. So if things go as planned, in end of 2026 we should have a first album out.
Cool. So that concludes the interview. And what would you like to say to the folks that are visiting my YouTube channel?
Well, thanks very much for supporting this channel, and we really hope that Sri Lanka will have a growing interest in metal. We know all over Asia there's a lot of interest, and many bands has played in places like Indonesia, and it's a growing market. It's a growing interest in metal, and we really hope to come there as well.
Will you be interested in touring and performing in Sri Lanka? Because metal bands such as Riding Christ, Demonic Resurrection have already performed here.
Yeah, we are very much interested to come to Sri Lanka. It's a very interesting country, and we really love to play as much as we can in every place around the world, and we really hope to make it a reality as soon as possible.
Great. So thanks a lot once again, Zeela, for taking your precious time to talk to me. I wish you all the very best with your future endeavors.
Thank you very much. Stay metal.